Continuing debate with the honourable member for Calgary Confederation.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to speak to Bill C-314, an act to amend the Criminal Code, Medical Assistance in Dying. This enactment amends the Criminal Code to provide that a mental disorder is not a grievous and irremediable medical condition for which a person could receive medical assistance in dying. This is not the first time I've risen in this House to speak on this issue of medical assistance in dying, Mr. Speaker, or what we refer to as MAiD. And I do thank the honourable member from Abbotsford for the opportunity to speak on this bill. As we know, MAiD is an extremely complex issue that has generated some strong opinions on both sides. In May of 2016, when I rose here to speak in support of the MAiD legislation, at that time I stated that when it comes to something as personal and sensitive as death, it is better to have options available. Even if we don't like these options, even if we don't believe in these options, it is better to have some legal framework in place than none at all. I quoted from many letters I received from constituents in my speech back then, and I read many of them out, from Ken, from Connie, from Valerie, Deborah Lee, Catherine, Tracy, Doug, and David. They all shared their personal perspectives with me, and it was extremely helpful in my own personal deliberations. In the years since MAiD was legalized, I have come to have known a number of people who have found comfort, personally and for their families, in the MAiD process. Their death was foreseeable, there was no chance of recovery, and when the dying process appeared to be both prolonged and cruel, it was an option that they took advantage of. Their death was dignified, it was planned, and it was peaceful. It allowed them to say their goodbyes to their loved ones, to their friends when they could. However, that being said, Mr. Speaker, I am a very big proponent of hospice and palliative care, which must always be a viable and an available option to someone contemplating MAiD. In the strongest terms, MAiD cannot be seen as a substitute for good palliative care, and it shouldn't ever. Through my family's volunteer experience with Hospice Calgary, and later with my wife's final days with breast cancer at the Agape Manor Hospice Care Facility, I saw firsthand how critical it is that we have a proper, well-funded palliative care system here in Canada. I saw then how underfunded this specialized care is within our healthcare system, and it is still that way today. Canadians should have access to the support and the care that they need while living through one of the toughest times in their lives. We need to do better, we can do better, but we certainly have a long way to go. Today, however, we are here to address the concerns of Canadians when it comes to the implementation of MAiD with mental illness as the sole eligibility. And this is the gist of Bill C-314. Should there be a permanent exclusion from MAiD for people whose sole underlying condition is a mental disorder? Mr. Speaker, back in 2016, during the original MAiD debate, I had a meeting with a constituent, a young man named Anton. He came to my office, and Anton is the main reason why I'm rising here to speak today. He was a young 20-something, 25, 26-year-old, fit, good-looking. He was an articulate, intelligent, healthy young guy. Now, when I say healthy, though, I mean in the physical sense only. Anton came to my office to discuss his desire to have access to medical assistance in dying. He literally wanted to die. He shared with me his mental struggles, and he said he was tired of living and he just wanted to die. Something that I just couldn't comprehend, Mr. Speaker. This young guy seemed to have everything going for him, and he wanted to die. Anton felt that the requirement in MAiD that one's death be foreseeable was unfair, it was a barrier, and it should not be in the legislation. He felt that if you wanted to die, you should be allowed through MAiD, no questions asked. It should be easy as going to get a haircut, he said. I did ask him, I said, have you ever thought of just taking your own life? Why do you need MAiD? He said he didn't want to put a bullet in his head. He didn't want to jump off a chair with a noose around him. He didn't want to cut his wrists. That seemed too fearful for him, too painful and unfair to whomever would find him. We talked for what seemed like hours in my office, Mr. Speaker, and I found it odd. He never once mentioned anything about a doctor or any treatments he was on or any medication, so I asked him, had he seen a doctor? He had not spoken to a single health professional about his desire to end his life. And I encouraged him. I said, you need to talk to somebody. I'm certainly not the guy to talk to with regard to suicidal tendencies. So he left the office. He said he would go seek some help. I gave him a hug. And I had many sleepless nights since, wondering if there was anything else that I could have done. About 3 months later, Mr. Speaker, Anton requested another meeting with me. And he told me that he had sought some help and he went to see a doctor, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, I don't know. But he did tell me of his horrific episode. The very doctor who Anton went to seek help called the police, saying Anton was a danger to himself, that he needed to be protected. So Anton was taken away by the police and locked in a padded room for 14 hours without any food or water. He told me that he had only got out because he finally convinced authorities that he was fine, that he was normal and that things were good. He basically had to lie his way out. He said it was the worst experience of his life. He had asked for help and he had gotten none. And that is the problem, Mr. Speaker. Many Canadians are just not getting the mental health that they need. Clearly, we need to put better supports into mental health and people's access to that help. We should be careful in asking our police to be mental health professionals. We need to make sure that we have the right people in the right place at the right time. And I am pleased to hear that some police forces are now using health professionals in the field, but we still have a long way to go. We need to put vulnerable Canadians back in control of their lives. We want to see them get the help that they need, provide them with the social and mental health supports that they need. We must never give up on them and allow them to prematurely choose MAiD over access to mental health care. Mr. Speaker, since 2016, I've heard nothing from Anton. I've often wondered whether he's still alive or is he dead. I had to, before the speech, try to seek him out. I went to social media. I had some assistance on that, and I did find some information on Anton, and I had discovered that he had found love abroad, and he is working to bring his new wife and his girlfriend to Canada and excited to start a new business. And I know that had MAiD legislation in 2016 permitted mental health as the sole reason, it is quite possible that Anton would have ended his life without exploring all of his options. He would have never have found love and support that he has today. I am very grateful for the perspective that Anton has given me on this issue, as it has profoundly convinced me that those whose sole condition is a mental disorder should not have access to medical assistance in dying. And that is why I support the honourable member from Abbotsford's and his private member's bill, Bill C-314. Thank you.